morning. I'm going to talk today about sketchbooks and thumbnails and studies and proposals, things of that nature. For every piece that we do, we create a series of thumbnails and proposals so that we can work our problems out before we actually get to the piece. This book is my sort of journey through that process for one of my previous shows that I have done in the last few years, and just to sort of show you how it's used. Now, was this 2016, 2017-ish? So the first thing I do is it's just going to be words. It's a list of the things that I'm just thinking about. You'll notice in here Post-its throughout the book. I'm using them so that I can either layer stuff up or just because I wrote it somewhere else and put it in here. One of those two things. A lot of my pieces are square or 24 by 48. That happens to be the piece, the type of size of the Post-its I have too. So that works out well for me. So you can see here another list of pieces and this odd little configuration you may never have seen before. This is a way that I do a lot of my layouts for my thumbnails. It works for me because I can just do a stack of them and draw, and then go back and look to see which one I like. This was for a series that I was doing, his greed, gluttony, several things like that. I was revisiting this, and you can see these lines on here. Look at this first one. See these lines that are throughout the piece, this layout lines. We're going to talk about that more as we go, and you'll be able to know a little bit more about that. But as you look through these pieces, look to see how those lines, big motions throughout the pieces are going to hit those diagonal lines in the piece as part of the composition, and this is how I'm working some of those out. Like, one of the reasons why I have this like in this configuration is I can see how pieces work well together. I ended up taking this one and combining them into a piece, and then later making a sculpture out of it. So working like this and getting these ideas all out at one time helped, and I also combined this with these two. Helped me to get some of these concepts worked out and to decide which elements I liked in the initial stages and which elements I wanted to just start over with. This is a different, like, those were all going to be vertical pieces. These are all horizontal pieces. Again, you see like notes to myself about things, maybe little drawings for stuff, but this is red. This is a lot easier to see probably, but you can see the composition grid that's on here. That doesn't end up in the piece. You can see here how I'm trying to decide. This is this piece, but this actually ended up pretty close to this layout in the actual piece. I'll attach some of those pieces so you can see it to here. This did too. So this one and this one ended up pretty close to my original drawing for the piece. Now, this is why we're looking at this book, because this is a series of thumbnails that I did for a larger piece, and you can see how it went through from the thumbnail itself, which is just a really raw drawing, sort of an idea about how I'm doing it, through, and I had a model for this, and I worked with them to get these next pieces. So with these next pieces, I worked through a lot of different ideas. Some of them good, some of them, yeah, okay. But I finally, after playing with a lot of things, I started to get an idea of what I liked and what I didn't. And this is the study. So it's gone from this little drawing here to this larger one here as a study, and then on to a 2 foot by 4 foot painting that I did later. So a study is a larger thumbnail that you can work out some of the technical problems that you may be having. With this, it was how to get these eyes lined up correctly. I had a lot with this one. The model wasn't with me, like physically in the room with me, so I had them take about 30 different photographs of different angles and things, and then I merged them into this composition. You can see this all these drawings after that one little thumbnail happened in like one setting, and I kept, this is the one that I used for my piece after I merged all this figure out. So it was a work with myself and the model to get all that to work. Now, another thing I use thumbnails for is I'll take, like, these are some of the pieces from those. I've printed them out into the book because what I use them for is to do layouts for the shows. So let me see a little more. Okay, so on this, this is a preliminary layout for a show, and I would know like where, like each piece has a number, and I would know where I wanted them to go in that show. This is for me, and then I'll do another piece in the computer that's a layout like this with all these pictures. They'll be in color and stuff, so that if it goes to a gallery or to somewhere where I'm not going to be setting it up, they can just take that picture. Like when I send it to the museum or somewhere, they take what I send them and they can just easily lay it out and know if they have all the pieces they need and everything. It's just easy for them to have somewhere to start. Okay, this gives you an example. Sometimes I get thumbnails from people and they'll look just like this. Now, this is another example of a study. This is the thumbnail for this. This is an example of a study. A study is not a composed thing. A study may be, like if I'm working with a bunch of wasps here, me working out how the anatomy may work with those wasps. Like what does it look like? But with the thumbnail and like a more finalized study, we need to know and see what your composition is actually going to be in the end. Sometimes for us logistically, that's so that we can approve it and have an idea as to what is in your head so that we can be able to approve it. Because if it varies too drastically from your original proposal, sometimes we have to back up and say, okay, well, that's not what you told us, and we have to revisit this approval that we've given for you. So we need it as close to what it's going to be so that we can give you the best information on our end as early as possible. Because if it's the day before it's supposed to go up and we're telling you can't go on the walls, then that's not fun for anybody. Okay, here's the last thing I'm going to say about this, is that sometimes with these thumbnails that you're going to see, especially if they're in your book, you might have notes about all the stuff that's going on, and that lets you know what's going on, that lets me know what's happening. As many things, and you notice these are all dated, but as much information that you can put down for yourself and for us to go through, it lets us know what your thought process is going to be on these pieces. When you are doing a piece and you do a drawing like this in your sketchbook, which a lot of us do, and it's on a sketchbook page, there's nothing wrong with that. But if you're transferring it over to a painting and your canvas or the size of your piece is not the same proportions, like this piece was transferred into a design that was a square, there's going to be a thumbnail that needs to happen so that you can design what proportions you like here and how they're going to fit in that new square. So when you're doing your designs, if you've designed them for a square, but they're going to be in a rectangle or a circle, or if they're designed by a 1x2 rectangle and they're going to be in a 3x4, those are all slightly different things, and it can change your concept of your design. So as we talk about composition, as we talk about the way we're doing things, make sure that you are designing your pieces for the paper or the wood or the canvas that you're going to actually be putting them on, because it'll save you a lot of headache in the end.